Well, since I can't go treasure hunting today since the snow's too deep, I wanted to make a fun little video. And in this video, I'm going to teach you a little bit about wilderness survival and what to look for, but this isn't going to be a hardcore wilderness survival video. I'm also going to do something that is not a good decision. It could actually kill me if this was a survival situation. You know, a situation where I couldn't get back to shelter and it was really cold, my fingers were cold. And you're going to see what it is, but I'm not going to tell you what it is to the very end. It's windy, it's cold, there's snow on the ground, we can't get out of the woods or the mountains before nightfall. We're going to have to spend the night out here. We're going to have to build a fire to try to stay warm. I don't have a jacket because I lost in some terrible accident with a bear back there. That was kind of a terrible movie, by the way, The Revenant. I loved the cinematography. You know, the winter stuff and the natural light was just absolutely done perfectly. Because that's what it looks like when you're out in the snow like this. But some of that stuff was just so hokey I couldn't stand it, and some of it was just out and out wrong. So what we're going to do now is just gather up some of the wood up here that's dry. And the neat thing about the winter time is that the air is really dry. So if you can get the wood that's not covered with snow or on the ground, that's normally has very little moisture in it. In fact, for those of you who don't know, the air is so dry in the winter time that when you get out of your car, like in a parking lot or something, a lot of times you go to close the door and it shocks you, whack, you know, shocks you, and it's like it really hurts. Sometimes it can really hurt. If you take your key first and touch the door before you actually touch it with your hand, the electricity will discharge into the key and it won't shock you. That's my tip for the day. So that's a shelter down there we're going to build a fire in, and we came up into the cedars. And all this bark right here is great for fire start, and it's very dry, and all these little sticks as well. Listen to it when I break it, it'll snap. See, that's dry because the air is so dry. I wanted to show you this since we're here. There's some animal tracks here going up, and see how there's no snow right here? This is where a deer bedded down and its body heat melted the snow. That was probably a couple nights ago by the look of it, because the tracks are not fresh. But one deer bedded down here, so there's probably some more little beds like that. Well, there's the two down there in the shelter that I just showed you. So that's at least 3 deer that were here. And there's another one right up here, look. Again, this is a big pile of brush that I made for him. You can see where one bedded down here, but he didn't stay as long. He didn't melt through the snow. And there's all kinds of tracks up in there. Neat, huh? I'm glad I could do something for the animals this particular storm. But back to the fire. Okay, so we're under our shelter here. We've got a little roof over our heads, and this will provide us some protection from the wind and any more snowfall that might happen tonight. So I cleared a little spot right here. This is where the deer was laying, and I moved the snow to the side so we can build a fire right here that will keep us warm through the night. Now the reason I wanted to clear the snow is, of course, this will melt and it will put out the fire if we're not careful. Now if this was 1816, this is what we might use to start a fire. We have a striker. This is a homemade, like, blacksmith's fire striker. You can find these when you're metal detecting, by the way. And if you see something like that looks like that, this was a very common design. And of course this is just a big chunk of flint that is actually a tool that Indians used. I could make a fire with that, but this is 2016. And I just happen to have a lighter in my pocket. Now, unfortunately, I didn't bring like a map with me today, or I don't have lint in my pockets because I already checked to make a fire. So we're going to use a piece of string that I happen to have, and you could also use a shoelace to do this. So I got a shoelace, well, it's a piece of string, and the lighter and some firewood. Let's go ahead and get it going. So I have a little teepee set up here of sticks that I gathered, and I put it on some bark just to keep it off of the ground for now. This is my string we're going to light. I actually did this once already, but I didn't have the camera on. So take the lighter, and we're going to get the thing lit. And the reason we want to use the string and not just the lighter is that we can save the juice in the lighter in case we have to do this again. Just take your string, bring it over here, and you got to be a little careful so it doesn't go out, because when it drips it'll sometimes go out. See how it's burning? It shouldn't take long to get this going, I don't think. There we go. And again, you can just use a shoelace if you have a shoelace. See, the plastic's going to burn down there too. Should have built a little better teepee, I suppose. But I was in a hurry, and this really isn't why I'm doing this video. I really have another reason. And you'll find out here soon. So, alright, it looks like it's going to go. I'm going to pull this out of here and put it out in case we need it later. Put it back here, and we got our fire going. We'll get some more wood, and we'll get her going here good. See how dry it is? Didn't take much at all to get that started because we were able to get the dry wood from the tree trunks and things that weren't in the snow. Alright, so we'll get that going. There we go. Now if it was raining out here, this would be a lot harder to do. But it's not, so we'll go with what we have. Keep making a little teepee. I'm going to have to blow on it just a little bit. Giving it some extra oxygen will really heats it up. Alright, here we go. Yeah, that's a nice fire, yeah. We'll be very warm soon, but there's a problem with what we just did. Do you know what it is? We'll find out. Alright, so we have a nice blaze going now. Didn't take long at all to get that thing going because the wood is so dry. And this is what we call a white man's fire. I don't know if this is true or not, but I've read this many times. They say the Indians could always tell when a white man built a fire because he built it so large it was like he was trying to heat the whole outdoors, whereas when an Indian would build a fire it would be just big enough to warm himself. Now we're going to do a little more pretending, okay? Let's just say I lost my lighter when I was gathering wood out there, and that could very well have happened, okay? It doesn't matter because we have a nice beautiful big fire going here, and this will keep us warm as long as we keep it fed. But we did something wrong when we made this fire. Do you know what it is? And I was reminded of this when I watched The Revenant, which just came out in the theaters not too long ago, when the dude had to climb into the horse. It was a dead horse, and he had to climb in there to stay warm. There's a short story by Jack London called "To Build a Fire," and this is kind of what inspired the video I'm doing right now. And in the short story, there's a guy, I think he was a trapper or a hunter, he's in the mountains with his dog, and he falls through the ice, maybe making a beaver set. And he gets really, really cold, and his fingers are so cold he can hardly make a fire, right? And the whole story is based around this, and he finally gets the fire going, and his fingers are so cold he knows he can't do it again. But there's a problem. When he built his fire, he built it underneath a big tree that was covered with snow. Much like our little shelter here is covered with snow. See the snow up there? And you may not have noticed it, but the water's dripping on me already. The snow's starting to melt from the heat from the fire. And in the story, the snow just collapsed all at once and put his fire out dead as can be. And his fingers were so cold there was no way he could make another fire, and he knew he was going to die. But he had a dog with him. So in his mind, in this story, he's going to get his dog, lure him over to him, and he's going to kill the dog with his knife, gut him, open his guts up, and put his hands inside the dog to warm them up enough so he can build another fire. Much like the glass guy did in The Revenant when he climbed inside the horse so he wouldn't freeze to death. And the dog kind of knew what was up, and he wouldn't come to him. He would stay just out of reach because he knew the guy was going to do something to him. And the guy froze to death. That's the story. It's called "To Build a Fire" by Jack London. So what is the moral of the story, do you ask? Is it a nice warm white man's fire? That's fine as long as you have plenty of wood. Is it don't build it underneath a tree with snow on it? Well, yeah. That goes without saying now. And this is the reason I made this stupid video, and the idea came to me when I was walking with my wife the other day in the deep snow, is that if you build a fire and you build it under a tree, make sure you have the dog on a leash. I know that was stupid, but I had to do it. And you know what? We got a nice fire out of it. My legs are burning up. They're so hot. And we're getting wet though, so we're going to have to split. All right. Until next time, hope you enjoyed the fire and the story. Just put some snow on it. And there she goes. There you go, buddy.